everybody, this is Tom from VermiBag. I'll do a quick update on the VermiBag trash bag. Haven't really checked in on this too much for the last 2 weeks. I mean, a week ago I added a tiny little bit of food scraps to the top of it, but I've been gone for the last week. It's been real hot here in the hundreds, and inside the garage it isn't too bad, but it's definitely up into the 80s, pretty good in the garage. Take a peek inside these and see how they're doing. Go ahead and unzip this thing. I definitely see a concentration of worms underneath the bubble wrap. I think at this point I need to pull the bubble wrap out now. It's actually, there's plenty of moisture in there. It's pretty humid. It's pretty hot, and the bubble wrap's actually holding in moisture or heat too as well. So I think only when it's real dry out do you need the bubble wrap. Well, the worms are definitely all over the surface of this thing. Now it might be the heat. It's not terribly. I'll stick a temperature gauge here in a minute and just see what it is. I did do a feeding here a while back. I threw a chunk of celery. That's what I threw in there last week. I just had some frozen celery. I just threw that in there, and that was it. The rest of this is just strictly the carbon sources and stuff that have been in the bin. But it's kind of amazing how thick they are here on the surface. It's also interesting note is all the worms that are on the surface here are actually African night crawlers. I mean, and there's more than African night crawlers in this bin. Definitely the majority is African night crawlers, but I actually don't see anything in the bag that, or here on the top of the surface, that is not an African night crawler. So let me scoop down under here a little ways and just see if there's worms, you know, right underneath there too. I'm amazed at how many worms are on the surface of this thing. So let's dig down and see what it looks like underneath a little ways. There's a lot of big sections of, this is just castings. They've been compacted a little bit, but a little bit dry too. I'm surprised. This is down about 6 inches, and this here, I mean, it breaks apart really well, and I mean, you could easily sift it, but it's, I'm going to say it's on the dry side, drier than I want it. So maybe some of those worms are coming up because of moisture issues. That's a little bit too dry down for them, down deeper. Because I'm not seeing too many down a little bit deeper. And yeah, it's definitely dry. There's a few worms mixed in it here and there, but nothing major. So let me just churn this up a little bit all the way around. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add some water to this, actually quite a bit too. I'm going to get my sprayer out, and I'm probably going to add a gallon, I bet, of water around the sides and stuff and wet this thing down real good again. I'm going to reach down here on the bottom first and just feel it. And now when I push here on the bottom along the sides around the harvest panel, it's moist down here. I can feel it's nice and soft and pliable. So the whole bag itself is not dried out. It was just like the layer, probably from like the 2-inch mark down to about the 7-inch mark. That whole layer was really dry. So I'm going to make sure I get it good and wet. You know, and if I get a little bit of leachate coming out the bottom, that's fine. It's more important to have the bag at a healthy moisture level than to worry about getting a couple drops of leachate out of the system. So let me grab my sprayer. Okay, I have my handy dandy 2-gallon sprayer. I have it right up to the 2-gallon mark. But I'll probably put a gallon in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray this really good, especially along the sides. If you don't have one of these sprayers, I mean, I highly recommend you get one. This would take forever with a hand sprayer. Your hands would be killing you after just a little while. Whereas with one of these pump-up sprayers, I mean, every once in a while you have to pump it up a little bit with air and get it charged again, but it can put out a ton of water very quickly. And again, don't ever worry about, spraying down your VermiBag and getting it too wet. VermiBags, you can get them to dry out fairly quickly and get to the proper moisture level. You're always better to run them a little bit on the wetter side than you are the drier side. But you definitely need to monitor the inside of the bag and, see if the bag is getting wet, and then add additional moisture. Let me pump this up again. And one thing too is during the hot summer months, when it's real hot, it's a good idea to run your bags a little bit wetter. It'll keep them a little bit cooler. If you let them dry out at all, once they start to dry, they'll turn to really dry really quickly. So to help your worms out, if the weather's pretty warm, getting up in the 90s or the 100s, wet your bag down really good. Put something underneath it if you can catch the leachate. Once those hot days are gone, then you can go ahead and cut back on the amount of moisture you're putting into the system. And again, the VermiBag will recover real quickly from any excessive moisture you have in it. So this is about, actually, probably maybe 3/4 of a gallon of water I put in it now. The level's down about 1/3 of the way on the 2-gallon. Dig in there and see what it looks like down a little bit further. I mean, the moisture didn't go down too far. It only went down a couple inches. So I actually think I'm going to give it a little bit more. And that seems like a ton of water, but as you can tell, it didn't go very far. So you can imagine if you were doing this with a hand sprayer, you would have squirted this thing down and thought that you gave it a whole bunch of water, and all you really did was wet the top 1/16 of an inch of the surface. Okay, so that's right at a gallon. I started full here, 2-gallon container, so I put about a gallon of water in there. I think that's probably pretty good. I'll take a look at it tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and if I give it a little feeding with some more food, wet scraps and stuff, it'll probably equalize it out pretty good. So, adding a whole gallon of water to this to kind of get it back to the right moisture content down, about 7 inches down. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave the bubble wrap off now because it's too hot in here. That retains too much heat in the system as well. So once it starts, I get the proper moisture again and the weather gets a little bit cooler, I'll go ahead and start using the bubble wrap again. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave my systems all open. So this is Tom from VermiBag. Until next time, ciao.